No high-end restoration or custom shop uses etch or high build 2K urethanes. And I will admit, there's not an agreed upon process that we all follow and we all agree on. But today, we're gonna show you a product and a process that's been the king of the industry for the last 2 decades. This is EVERCOAT Slick Sand. Many people refer to this as Body Man in a can or God in the can. But what is it about this product that's so much superior to your traditional 2K urethane primers? Well, before we get into that, let's take a look at the P sheet and go over a couple things that I like about this product. The P sheet calls for 2 to 3 medium wet coats, and for each coat off the gun, you're achieving 4 to 6 mils of dry film thickness. Also, it doesn't shrink like traditional urethanes do. Its total solids by weight is 61 to 64%. This is essentially a high build primer, but on steroids. I love this product. We've used it for over 20 years and 1,000 show cars. This has always been my go-to high build primer of choice. It's very misunderstood and misused in this industry, but it needs to have a bare metal primer put under it. It should not be applied directly to raw aluminum or raw steel. And the technical data sheet does say if it's smaller than 1 inch in diameter, you can put it right over. Why is that? Well, one, it's a polyester. It is extremely porous. I'm worried about the moisture from wet sanding or the moisture in the air coming in. This stuff is essentially a sponge passing through and hitting my raw steel. So I want to protect it first. But what kind of bare metal primer do you use? In the collision industry and in production shops, people lean towards an etch because of speed and simplicity. You should never use an etch when you're using a high build polyester primer. And even according to the P sheet, it says to use a premier high-end epoxy primer first before you apply your high build primer over top of it. This is the bed that we're priming today. This is David's personal 1994 Ford Lightning. Here's where we're at with it. He started with a really nice bed, very few if any dents, 0 rust, 0 damage. It was the best specimen he could find. He sanded it down, he put a couple coats of high build epoxy on it, he let it sit for a month, he blocked that out, and he applied all the body fillers over the cured epoxy. Now it's sitting in a 180 grit, it's all taped up, and the reason for that is we want to control where we get the high build primer and where we don't. So everything that's exposed is going to get the slick sand ultimately, and everything that's taped up, we don't want that much product there. We didn't want to put a thin skimmer coat of Bondo over the whole vehicle, so essentially the slick sand is kind of replacing that step. The good, the bad, and the ugly about slick sand is it's super thick. That's great when I'm trying to level everything and get it razor straight. The bad news is I don't want excessive film build, aka mils. A mil is 1/1000th of an inch, and most factory paint jobs are that 5 to 6 mils. Right now, I'm gonna mill this vehicle, make sure we don't have too much body filler or too much primer, because when we come in here and apply 3 big coats of slick sand, we could be adding another 18 mils on top of it. We'll start with like an 80 grit or a 100 grit. It'll get it flat fast, but also it will remove a bunch of those mils. And that is essentially why we taped everything up, because we want to control where we're getting our build and where we're not. Now we're ready to clean it. We have some solvent, wax and grease remover right here. I'm not a big fan of shooting wax and grease directly on my body filler. Why? Because it's polyester and it's porous. If you mess up and do that, dry it up real good and make sure it evaporates. People say degas it. You can come in with a blowgun and kind of help the evaporation process by blowing it. You can do it 1 or 2 ways. You can take and shoot your wax and grease remover on your paper towel and just kind of go around it. When you shoot it, if you use some control, you can just shoot it around your body filler. Careful not to get anything crazy into the mud. Look, epoxy comes in several different colors. There's different reasons for that. I personally don't like using a light gray epoxy primer on raw steel or aluminum. Why is that? Well, sometimes it plays a trick on my eyes. I have a hard time telling if I have a 1/2 mil or 5 mils on there because the aluminum and steel is too close in color. I personally like a black epoxy throughout the process. We're gonna do one full wet coat, and then we're gonna come in and we're gonna spot in anything light. We're even gonna get crazy and shut the booth lights off and put our LUMAIII Sun Pro on to make sure that every corner is hit and there's no light spots. We live in Michigan and we use a lot of salt. This epoxy is essentially our protection from corrosion and rust out, and we want to be diligent about getting everything covered into the proper mill thickness. With the 2 epoxies that we mentioned today, we can spray them, we can let them sit a couple hours or overnight, and we can recoat them. Some epoxies should sit days and days. They should be scuffed and then cleaned again before you hammer out the slick sand. Let's talk about how to mix slick sand. When you buy a 1 gallon can of slick sand, it comes with 4 of these tubes. These are 0.75 ounces. So if you're mixing a quart at a time, you simply dump the entire tube in there. The cool thing about this is it's got little dots on it, so you can mix 8 ounces, 16, 24, or the full quart. Remember, 1 gallon is 4 quarts, and it should come with 4 of these. That's the hardener. If I was only doing a half of it, I would stop right here. I would stop at that line right there. So 16 ounces, I would stop there, but since I'm doing a quart, I'm gonna do the whole thing. If you're mixing with one of these cups, you can't pour 32 ounces in here. A lot of times they only go up to 28 or whatever. If you're using the DeVilvis D cups, the cool thing about these is you can pour a full quart. The Sada cups and the 3M PPSs, the 3M PPSs, the largest size that they go up to is 28 ounces. So make sure that you plan accordingly. Usually I mix smaller batches. Today I'm gonna pour a full quart into each one of these. I push these Ditos toppers. These toppers are great. I can put them on. I can take my drill. I can spin it. I can pour from it very easily. And then I can move this $15 topper from gallon to gallon to gallon. So I'm a big fan of these Ditos toppers for the do-it-yourself guys because it makes it really easy to mix it, pour it, and then also I'm not prying this can topper on and off 100 times. Notice I have my paper down on my wood table. I'm not gonna pour over the front of it. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna position it so I can pour over the back side, and I'm gonna pour 32 ounces. And when I do it, it could make a mess if you don't pour it fast. So I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna pour it as fast as I can, and then boom. I've got my 32 ounces exactly. Put this bad boy on. The bad thing about this system is these liners, you gotta get rid of the filter system on your tops. All right, so if you're using cupless, you gotta go old school. So boom, I've got that poured in. I'll open the catalyst. Because I have 32 ounces, it takes a whole tube of this. I'm gonna shake it again once I transfer it to the other one, but I'll mix it up really good. I'll pour it in this and I'll strain it. That's all there is to mix slick sand properly. You're not gonna prime a whole car with a gallon. You probably need ×2. The stuff is super thick and we kind of use a lot of it. We'll probably use almost a gallon just on this bed. This guy's got a 2.5 tip and it's excellent to use for slick sand. Now, according to the technical data sheet, I always say P sheet because I'm a PPG guy, is you want a 2.0 tip or bigger. I don't recommend using your normal 1/8 or 1/7 or 1/6, whatever you're using for your urethane. Get a big tip gun. I like 2.2s or bigger. My gun personally is a 2.5. The only other thing about slick sand is because it's so heavy bodied, because it's so thick, there's something that you should be familiar with called spray weight. This is true with your urethanes, you just don't notice them as much because they're thinner. When you're spraying, if you do a lot of starting and stopping, you're putting 10 mils here, 6 mils here, 10 mils here, 6 mils here. Even if your body work is perfect, you can actually put very minor ripples, aka spray waves, in them. EVERCOAT recommends 2 to 3 coats, and you should wait 10 to 15 minutes flash time in between coats. The pot life on this stuff is pretty short. They say it's 45 minutes at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Be honest with you, I never leave this stuff in my gun past 30 minutes. I usually mix enough for 1 round. We're gonna put 3 wet coats on. If I go past that 30 minutes, I run thinner through my gun. We're gonna sand this guy out. If we need to reprime it, we're just gonna come in and spot it with our slick sand again. You can add 10% reducer and spot your areas in. I'm gonna get this guy perfect in slick sand, aka the polyester primer. If there's any bare cut throughs on the raw steel or aluminum, I'll hit my epoxy on those. I'll let that sit. I'll put 1 coat of urethane sealer over the whole thing, and then I'll move on to base coat. All right, that's it. We got our 3 big rounds of slick sand on. What we're gonna do is we're gonna let it sit overnight. We're not gonna bake it today, and tomorrow we'll bake it. We're gonna start blocking it with 80 to 100 grit. If you're in a hurry and you're trying to cure this stuff up, and most stuff naturally takes about 30 days to cure, you could block it with your 80 or 100, do another round of bake or let it sit in the sun for a day or 2, and eventually move up from there. We're in no hurry to paint this car, so we're gonna bake it tomorrow, and then we're gonna start blocking it out. The only bad thing about slick sand is there's a lot of peel and texture. It's almost like spraying maple syrup, but it does fill really well and it cuts great with that 80 or 100 grit. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. There's a lot of great videos out there for you. One of the videos that I recommend, if you want to learn about what to do before this, like the best bare metal treatment and preparation and phosphate coatings and epoxy, check out this video, and this is a great one that goes through all the steps. Now that the last coat is flashed, I'm gonna take my EASTWOOD guide coat and I'm gonna put a nice even coat on top of it. So from David and Gary and Chevy at Refinished Media, until the next time.